Hi everyone, welcome back to Live Darts, a very special Zoom interview. We've got PDC Chief Exec Matt Porter with us. Matt, thanks for joining us as always. You know you're a very busy man at the moment.
That's okay.
It's been a busy few days for the PDC. You finally announced pretty much the whole of the 2020 calendar, barring the Worlds. Must be a relief to get that out in the open so everyone knows what's going on.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the biggest problem throughout this whole scenario has been the uncertainty. So to now have some clarity over what we can do over the next couple of months in what is traditionally always really our busiest time, October and November, is good for everybody. Everyone who's involved with darts now can plan for the next couple of months and work out where they're going to be, which will be behind me for most of them. I thought I'd remind everybody of the new home of World Darts and see what they're going to do.
Yeah. Has it been tough for Matchroom in general trying to juggle between MK and obviously Coventry, because you've got so many hats on and these two venues work perfectly for all your sports?
Yeah, they do. It's funny because we had the Marshall Arena in Milton Keynes lined up before World Snooker did, but it just so happened that their first event back in June was before ours, so that they stepped in there, and then we went in for the Summer Series and the World Match Play. And then, they had the requirement to book it for a long period of time because they'd lost 7 events from China, I think it was. Yeah. So clearly they were going to take over occupancy. If they're going to take over occupancy for all of September, October and November, it wouldn't be right for us to say, well, we want it for the odd week here and there. So it was no issue whatsoever to move to the RICO. Geographically, hardly any difference. Venue layout, hardly any difference. So it was no problem at all. And the guys at the RICO and the Marshall Arena have all been very accommodating for us.
Obviously, it's been a draining time on not just darts, but all sports. Are you looking at the 2021 calendar with some hope and optimism, or is there a plan that it could be exactly like we are now for some parts of 2021 as well?
Well, you have to try and plan as if everything's normal and work backwards from there, because if you plan for a scenario where things are not normal, it's very difficult to upscale. It's much easier to plan for everything and then downscale if you need to. So we've been quite good in terms of getting most things on. I don't think there's many sports in the world that will complete a 10-event second and secondary tour like we will do with both the Challenge and the Development Tour. There's not many sports in the world that are introducing additional content for women players at the moment, like we've done with the Women's Series. And there's not many sports that will be able to deliver as much of their professional tour as we will do, with 23 Players Championship events and 4 European Tour events. So I think that's not a criticism of other sports. It's just the nature of the circumstances. We've been quite fortunate in that we can get events on, and we've looked to deliver those. So it's important for next year that we plan as normal: 30 Players Championships, 13 European Tours, all the Premier events, etc., etc. And then if we do need to pull it back a little bit because of the scenario, or we need to rearrange things for later in the year because clearly everything can't go on like this forever, then we'll do that.
Just touching on what you said about the secondary tours, like the Ladies Series and everything like that, in the calendar next year, can we expect to see these blocks of Pro Tours? Because obviously I know it was forced upon it to do it this way, but it's ended up being a very good addition having these blocks and series.
It has, and the feedback has been largely positive. The issue is scheduling. You need 5 days for what we've done at the moment for playing. You then need an extra day for rig. You then need potentially an extra day if you're going to do European Tour qualifiers around them. And it's very hard in our calendar to find that sort of space under normal circumstances. Clearly, you can't do it during Premier League.
Yeah.
That takes up February to the end of May. You wouldn't really do it in January when you've got Q School and a bit of a break after the World Championship and a busy winter. Then you sort of move into World Series. By the time you come out of World Series, you've got back-to-back European Tour events. By the time you get out of that, you've got TV events every weekend. By the time you get out of that, it's the end of the year. Yeah. So there is no room. There's just no space, So we like the idea of the blocks, and we are working to see what we can accommodate. It's going to be very tough to do 5 in a row, but there might be scenarios where 3s or 4s or whatever are possible. And if we can move more of that content at the professional end of the game, so the Pro Tour, into midweeks, then that's good for everybody as well.
I think a lot of fans like the race for the match play and the race for the Grand Prix, because players had 5 days to get into those events instead of just doing it in 2s, which I think captured the darts audience as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I'm sure the fans loved it, but it's not for them. It's for the players. So,
No, yeah, I understand that.
no, look, joking aside, it's good that it was received positively, and we loved it as well. You know, the build up for qualification was full of drama and suspense, and it was easy to follow the order of merit on a daily basis. But the players have to be our primary concern, so we have to schedule things that mean, you know, if you're playing in Germany on the Sunday, you can't be expected to report for duty at Barnsley on a Monday morning.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just the way it is. We're trying to accommodate as much as we can, factoring in travel, factoring in venue availability, factoring in the time it takes to build these events. You know, to build 32 cubicles for a challenge or a development tour event takes a lot of guys a lot of time.
Yeah.
You know, and it's although there's not 365 days of darts in the calendar, there's not many days where people are sat at home doing nothing if they're involved in the organisation of the events. So we have to factor that in, and then other things like if we're doing an event, so say we're doing the event in Riesa, well, there's not 1,000 direct flights a day from Riesa International Airport to the UK. You know, you've got to get a train to Berlin, you've got to fly, you might have to connect somewhere. So you have to allow the whole day for travel, really. And we take all those factors into account. So as I say, it's great that fans have liked those blocks and the drama that they've created, and the players have done too, but they're difficult to schedule.
No, that's understandable. Coming on to the Worlds, obviously, I know that you said on other interviews that we don't know what's going on yet, and then Barry teases us all and says it might jump away when he was on Sky. What is the likelihood, in your opinion, do you think? Is it going to be Ali Pali behind closed doors, or could Barry's dream of fans somewhere else be realistic?
If you were setting a book on it, then you would price Ali Pali, you know, as the short price favourite, and you'd price Ali Pali without fans, unfortunately, possibly as even shorter price favourite. Yeah. But you would certainly might have an each way dabble on somewhere unusual with fans, just to give yourself a bit of value. You know, it's not something we want to rule out. It would be extremely difficult to find somewhere and get the deal done and get everything arranged logistically at short notice, but that's what we're good at. So, you know, if there's somebody out there who thinks that they might have a creative option for the World Championship, and they've got a venue and they've got a government that's allowing them to have fans and things like that, then we'll try and find them. But it's going to be difficult. So, you know, you would probably expect things to be at Alexandra Palace, you know, even if they wasn't nailed on yet. Realistically,
how long would you need as the PDC for a late change? Say that all the government went all of a sudden, okay, we're going to allow X amount. What's your turnaround time as an organisation to get fans back in for ticket sales and everything like that?
Probably a month. Probably sort of middle of November would be when we'd look to know 100%. You know, anything shorter than that might be difficult for everybody to get their heads around. So you'd probably say, you know, 4 weeks would be the loose cut-off period.
Right, okay, so at least fans know sort of like by the mid to end of November that we're probably going to know one way or the other what's going on.
I mean, Phil, you know, throughout this whole process, our policy has been to wait.
100%.
You know, we haven't made snap decisions about things that are 6-9 months in advance, and we're not going to do that about the World Championship either. So even now, sitting here on the 1st of October, you know, 10 weeks out from when you look to start the event, we will hold our nerve and we will see where the best option for the event is. It's a prestigious event. It's the one event in darts that transcends darts in terms of gets the whole sporting world excited about it.
Yeah.
So it deserves the opportunity to be played in front of a crowd. The players deserve that opportunity. For many of them, it would be the biggest day of their lives when they walk up on that stage for the first round. You know, so why would we not give it every chance?
100%. And like you say, the way that the PDC have done everything has been tremendous through this whole thing, through fans and players always know what's going on. This is sort of like rolls into one here. Did the success of the World Series and the Euro Tour over the last few weeks show the UK government that bringing fans back into arenas can be done in a safe environment?
You would have hoped so, wouldn't you? But it's not seemed that way so far. You know, I think that they've obviously got domestic issues to consider, and you know, perhaps what's happening in Austria and Germany isn't at number one on their list. But you know, we have made them aware that we've staged events successfully with crowds in Austria and Germany, and will continue to do so over the weeks ahead. So if there is any influence that can be applied on it, we're trying to do that, but it's obviously not worked so far yet.
No, which must be frustrating from not just darts point of view, but again, your all sports point of view. I heard Eddie talking about it recently as well, that there seems to be fans going into arenas all over Europe, but the UK seems to be slow in reacting to all this.
Yeah, and not just sporting arenas as well. I read a really good quote from Carl Robinson, the Oxford United manager, the other day, saying that he was watching his fans, Oxford United fans, queuing to go in the cinema in the retail park over the road from the Oxford United Stadium, while his team were playing in front of an empty stadium. And you're not telling me that it's safer for 100 people or 50 people or whatever to sit in a cinema than it is for them to sit spaced out inside a football stadium. So there's all sorts of contradictions wherever you look, you know, and actually the advantage of bigger arenas is that you can socially distance more easily. So, you know, if we can find places that will be prepared to open, and that's a bit of a challenge as well. Not every venue wants to reopen under social distancing because the economies of scale don't match for them. But we have got some venues who are keen to reopen, and once we've got the go ahead from the government, we are confident that over here we can stage safe events for everybody.
No, that's great to hear. Obviously, darts in the short term has done a tremendous job, but long term, what damage is this going to have to the sport, do you think? Because I know that you say that the PDC have had this pot for a rainy day, but that pot isn't endless, is it? So what's the scale and time-wise before you start to worry?
No, the pot isn't endless, but it's not run out yet either. So we're okay as things stand, and we will, if we do go into next year with the same kind of conditions, we will obviously have to bear that in mind, because clearly that pot can't run dry. Otherwise, we cease to be able to operate, which would not be what anybody needs. The key thing for us was not to lose players from the sport, particularly younger players, which was why we were so determined to keep the challenge and the development tours going, and why we've been trying to help promote the growth of remote darts, because I think that's a really good way in the modern world where everybody's very digitally focused. It's a good way for people to engage with each other, stay socially active, and also stay mentally active. It's difficult if you're stuck at home all day because you're working from home, or you're not working at all, or you're not studying or whatever. You need something to occupy your mind, and remote darts is actually a really good way of doing that. It's sociable, it's competitive, and it's fun. So, and relatively easy from a technical point of view to stage to a certain degree. So, from our side, we've been keen not to lose people from darts, not to make them feel disengaged with the sport, and then maybe not come back to it when things return to normal. That's pretty easy with the pros because it's their living. But lower down, we want those kids who are on the development tour, who are coming through the JDC, who are following us online and on social media. We want them to stay in love with darts. So the more remote darts that we can see, and the more carrots such as the development tour and the World Youth Championship that we can deliver, the better that is.
No, definitely. And again, just looking at some other things that have happened in the last week or so, Raymond van Barnaveld announcing he's going to go to Q School and end his retirement. Were you surprised by this announcement after the fanfare he had and the goodbye that he had?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't last very long, did it, the retirement? No. He obviously got bored early, so fair enough. Good, let's see how he does at Q School. We love Raymond, and he had an amazing career. Can he do it all over again? Time will tell, but we'll give him all the encouragement and support that he deserves as a world champion and a many-time TV event winner. And he'd be great for the profile of the sport, particularly in the Netherlands. But let's see how that goes. Again,
I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway, because there's a lot of chat about it on social media and they'll want to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. In snooker, obviously Stephen Hendry was handed away.
No, we're not giving anyone tour cards. No,
that's what we were going to say. That in darts, it can't happen because of the setup of the 1-2-8, can it?
Yeah, I don't really even know why they've done it in snooker. I'm sure they've got their own reasons for it, and fair play, it's nothing to do with me. But we're not going to be doing that.
No, I think that sends out the right message for the sport as well. Looking ahead, obviously, so many premier events for the PDC, and did Michael not qualifying for the Premier League make it slightly easier for you to tag it on to one of these events, obviously, because of the quarantine situation and everything?
Yeah, like maybe that? a little bit, but Michael would have been over anyway, and there's quarantine exemptions for elite sports people. So it didn't really affect it. I mean, it did make it maybe 1 or 2% easier because obviously Glenn, Gary, Nathan, and Peter have only got to jump in their car and not on a plane or a ferry, you know. But yeah, it didn't make a huge difference.
And again, looking back, if you had time to dissect the Premier League and the match play, and was it a success from broadcaster point of view and everything like that, the way it was all done?
Yeah, from a broadcaster point of view, things were fantastic. You know, viewing figures were up, and I think everybody agreed that the way it was presented was as good as an event without a crowd could be presented. So that was really positive, and the feedback from Unibet and Betfred was good as well, which is very important because the money that these people put into darts is extremely valuable to us, and that's that's another issue going forward. What will happen there? But with bookmakers, but you know, the feedback from commercial stakeholders was really positive. And I think the fans were really good as well. They acknowledged that, you know, it was difficult circumstances. It might not have been exactly perfect. There's obviously split opinion on whether you like the fake crowd noise or not. That's fair enough. You know, I would be amazed if there was 100% consensus on that. So that was no problem. And unfortunately, we don't have the ability with the channels that football does to have 2 feeds. So it will just be the 1 feed with the noise. But the players as well were largely, once they got used to it, and they had the opportunity to practice on stage with the fake crowd noise, I think they appreciated that because you were there, Phil, in Milton Keynes. You saw what it was like. Had that noise not been played, you know, you sat up on the press balcony having a conversation with Dave Allen would have been audible on stage.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, or somebody walking across the floor and their shoe squeaks at the time of it. You just couldn't have that environment. You know, it would have been like playing in a morgue, you know. So we had to have that noise to keep people feeling that it was as normal as it could be, you know.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. It would have been really ilky and scary, almost like Halloween, like just to be up with nothing. So yeah, that worked really well. Another couple from social media with the Players' Championships finals at the Rico. Are we still going to have the 2 stages set up within one area?
Yeah, no change to the format there. We don't know exactly where the second stage is going to be. We're going to work that out this week while we're there for the World Grand Prix. But that exhibition hall at the Rico is massive, so there's plenty of options there. But there will definitely be 2 stages, and there will be coverage of the second stage as per normal. Yeah,
because it's all these little things that you forget about, and fans go, "Oh, is this still going to happen? Is this still going to happen?" And stuff like that. In regards, just last few Q School 2021, 100% going to happen as we stand at the moment?
As things stand now, we are finalising the 2021 calendar. It's got European and UK Q School over a 4-day block in the middle of January as normal. You know, we're working on all the venues for the different tour events, and we'd look to get that out pretty soon. You know, as things stand now, it goes ahead. Clearly, if nobody's allowed out of their house again, it doesn't. But as things stand now, it does.
Matt, pleasure as always, mate. Thank you very much for taking time out to speak to us.
No problem.
And I shall see you at the Rico for the World Grand Prix.
Behind me. Yeah, I'm not there now, by the way. It's the wonders of technology. In the same way, that's not your wallpaper.
No, but it just hides my messy flat at the moment.
Yeah, it might be, to be fair, Phil, the way you're going with your promotion. If you keep painting it all up, it'll look good.
Well, if you just put it around everywhere, it'll stick in the end.
That's it.
Cheers, Matt. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, take care. Thanks a lot.